and welcome to a brand new video. So today I'm setting up my bullet journal for the month of September. This setup has a planetary theme with a little bit of a twist. When I was looking up inspiration for a space theme on Pinterest and YouTube, I noticed that a lot of them were blues, purples, and had lots of sparkles. And I think those are gorgeous, but I wanted to change mine up a bit. So because fall is approaching, I decided to opt for warmer tones to create a cozier feel without having to do a full-on autumn theme. I wanted to keep this setup pretty minimal and doodly, so rather than integrating my doodles into my spreads completely, I just used them mostly to accent the spreads. As for the coloring in the planets, I pretty much only used shades of my Crayola Super Tip markers and then one yellow brush pen here and there. So hopefully this theme will be really easy to recreate with limited supplies. As usual, everything will be linked in the description box below. On the other side of the cover page, I added a quote that says, "Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground," which I thought was pretty fitting for the theme as well as the new school year where everyone is setting up new academic and career goals for themselves. I used a soft tip brush pen for the calligraphy and the fine tip side of my black Tombow dual brush pen for the block letters and doodles. Moving on to my monthly calendar, I added a header in the top left corner in calligraphy, and then I used a lowercase font for the titles of the days of the week. To add the dates in my calendar, I used a gray Crayola Super Tip so that they would blend into the background better and make the future filled-in calendar look less cluttered. I learned my lesson from my last setup, and I used a ruler this time, but I still managed to mess up my lines. For the sake of keeping my journal imperfect and more me, however, I didn't bother trying to go back and fix it, though it'd probably be an easy fix with some whiteout. Okay, honestly, I was probably just too lazy to fix it, but hey, it's my journal, and your bullet journal doesn't always have to be Instagram worthy if you're not up for it. To keep up the theme on the spread, I filled in the extra space on the sides with planets of varying shapes and designs. Actually, you'll notice throughout this setup that I only really use the same 5 to 10 base designs for my planets, but I do vary their colors and placements to make each page look unique. This was also the last time I used that yellow brush pen since it looked too bright and vibrant for the theme, and I was going for a calmer, more muted color scheme. Finally, I added a gray drop shadow along the calendar, highlighted the days of the week in a light tan color, and drew some doodles of stars running along the top of the page. Next, I set up my monthly playlist. The shapes of the planets became a bit of a disaster, which seems to be a recurring theme throughout this setup, since I just tried to eyeball the size of my circles around an album cover picture. In the end, it looked alright, though next time I'll probably use a bottle cap or stencil or something to give myself enough space and better looking circles. I printed the album covers of my favorite songs at the moment and glued them into my journal inside each circle. When I was picking the album art, I edited certain covers to have less vibrance and pigment so the colors wouldn't clash with my theme. With my hard tip brush pen, I added the rings around each planet, varying the thickness and angles for each. To give my spread more color, I highlighted the rings with my Crayola Super Tip markers. To simulate a digital playlist, I also added little doodles of the play, pause, forward, and rewind buttons. I didn't have enough space to put the artist's name and the doodles in the journal, but I will list all of these songs in the description if you'd like some unsolicited song recommendations. The next spread was my reflection spread. Here I reserve space for the month as a mini journal where I can write the highlights and low points of the month with a different dated entry each time. I'm a pretty nostalgic and sentimental person, so spreads like my reflections and monthly playlists are my favorite to incorporate, as later I'll be able to look back on this journal and get clear snapshots of what my life was like, which I really appreciate. Next up is my video planning calendar and checklist. Right now I digitally plan out my content calendar, but I wanted to try a physical version to see if I like it better. In the spaces of the calendar, I can mark out days for planning, filming, and editing with sticky notes. Later, I can just adjust the calendar based on my school schedule or how quickly I finish a video. I don't want to be too strict with myself on pushing out new content, since the quality of my videos is more important to me than sticking to a weekly schedule. If 2020 has taught us nothing else, it's that life can get in the way sometimes, and that's completely okay. I included a checklist for myself to break down each video into 3 stages: planning, filming, and editing. The planets inside the calendar indicate the days of the week that I upload, which, by the way, is every Monday. The spread on the right is a little different from what I normally do. I'm using the space to create an ideal daily routine for me during quarantine. Since most people are stuck at home and it's hard to create a personalized schedule for yourself each day, I'd recommend writing down what you want a day in your life to look like, and then you can reflect on how close to this ideal you are each day. It'll also keep you on track with the things you need to accomplish every day, like walking your dog or studying. I'll be uploading a video on my productive quarantine routine, so you guys will be able to check out how closely I kept to this ideal. I varied the distances of each planet from the center of the page to give a solar system feel. I didn't want to include times in this spread, as this is supposed to be more of a guideline rather than a rigid structured day. For me at least, the more specific I get into planning every single second of my day, the less likely I am to follow that schedule, so I much more prefer to split up my day into chunks, with each section having its own to-do list. Finally, here is my first weekly spread. On the left side, I included a mini calendar with a black box for the title of the week, using a Pigma Micron fine liner in 05 to fill in the dates. For each day, I created a starry wreath design for my titles by scribbling uneven circles and alternating stars inside and out of the circles. I do really love this layout for a weekly spread, since it gives so much space per day and allows you to put multiple weekly trackers on the outside, like habit trackers, mood trackers, or studying logs. The one drawback I would say to using this layout is the fact that it only fits 6 days, so I combined Saturday and Sunday into one box. It's not too big of a deal to me, since I mostly try to keep my work on the weekends lighter and give myself time to recharge. Underneath the calendar, I added a study log tracker with the days of the week and the number of hours I'd spent studying, with the maximum being 8. With so many online classes, it'd be easy to slack off and ignore my work, so by using a study log, I'll be more motivated to study so that I don't leave any blank space. It might seem really silly or childish, but it actually really does work as a simple motivator, so just trust the process. On the right, I added a section for any weekly events, which I'll probably mostly use for work shifts and important assignment and test dates. I used a white jelly roll pen for the calendar title, but it didn't show up very well, so if you guys have any recommendations on how to make these white pens pop a little bit better, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. So that's all for my September 2020 bullet journal setup. Even though the setup process had little mistakes along the way, I'm actually really happy with how the spreads turned out, and I find myself flipping through this month to enjoy the spreads every time I open my bullet journal. I think that's really important for bullet journaling. You shouldn't feel like each spread has to be perfect, but you should enjoy them so you use it more often. If you enjoyed this theme and setup video, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more. And if you'd like to see more weekly spreads with this theme, you can head over to my Instagram, where I'll post more in-depth setups and flip throughs. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!